If you've got 100 young boys, all 6 years old, 99 of them are all wearing boys' clothes because boys wear boys' clothes, right?
There are two kinds of peanut butter. Crispy? Nope. What is it?
Studies have consistently demonstrated that providing gender-affirming care that is both age-appropriate and evidence-based leads to improved mental health outcomes. Conversely, denying such care is linked to a greater increase of anxiety, depression, and self-harm.
There are two kinds of peanut butter.
It's insane to me how much of a victim you feel like for just being held accountable for being an asshole.
There are two types of peanut butter. Creamy and crunchy.
I'm not crunchy, baby.
This video contains subject matter which may be inappropriate for some viewers. Hello, you stunning women on the go. Welcome back to my channel. My name is David and you are watching Dismantling Hate, the series where I find some hateful stuff online and we react to it, and I deliver some unapologetic resistance and other stuff I don't remember.
Thoughts and prayers.
We have two things to do today. The first video that we're going to take a look at is titled 3-Year-Old Kicked Out for Being Transphobic by Isaac Butterfield. I have to say, I already don't like Isaac, but I do love his last name, love a Butterfield. This video is only 10 minutes, and the other video that we're going to take a look at is published by The Line. I don't know if you know about The Line, but if you're watching me and you enjoy me, you should be knowing about The Line, okay? We'll talk about that after. The title of this video is Transphobic Liar is Upset That He's Being Held Accountable. So you remember about a minute ago when I said you can be smooth or crunchy? Well, it's up to you to decide who is smooth and who is crunchy, because there can only be one. I'm glad that I'm on this part of history because Jesus. Oh, and also I'm gonna paint my face because I have a show tonight. That's what we got on the menu today. We're gonna look at some garbage for 10 minutes and then we are going to watch a transphobe get roasted for 38 minutes straight. It's one of my favorite videos ever. It just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside, and I'm gonna paint my face while we're doing it. So we're gonna get hateful and then we're gonna get great. So feel free to jump around in those chapters down there, girly wigs. I've already primed my face, so I'm ready to start painting. So we're gonna roll the intro and let's get into it. Dismantling Hate starts now. Me when Dismantling Hate starts now, which is always. I am pretty sure things are moving pretty fast because everything is kind of blowy. I feel like I've been taking really good care of my skin as of late, which is great, but then I get in front of this mirror and then I just don't want to have skin anymore. It's fine. People have pores. Okay, so here's Isaac Butterfield. The description of Isaac's video, 3-Year-Old Kicked Out for Being Transphobic.
I just burped.
He didn't actually write anything about the contents of this particular video in this description. It's just an ad for his book that's called Better Man. Isaac Butterfield's Better Man isn't just a book. It's a wake-up call for the modern man. With raw honesty and humor, Butterfield tackles the challenges and pressures men face in today's world. From mental health to masculinity, Better Man is a must-read guide for any guy striving to navigate life with authenticity and purpose. It's time to refine what it means to be a man. Isn't that hilarious? Because that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, let's get into Isaac Butterfield. Have I been screaming this whole time? I think I've been screaming this whole time. Okay, you F-slurs, you ready to get butterfelt?
No.
Oof. That's not good. Okay, roll the films.
G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name's...
Oh yeah, he's Australian.
I've lost all control.
Shit. We're having a great time already.
Isaac Butterfield, and in this video I'm going to cover an absolutely insane...
It is insane, guys. It is absolutely insane.
...story. This story, if it doesn't blow your mind, then you are part of the problem. You are part of the issue that is facing the Western world right now that is really affecting us all.
Oh, come on. Come on, B-roll. I see you. I am pretty sure things are moving pretty fast because everything is kind of blowy.
Terribly. We seem to be falling deeper into this...
Cankles.
that is authoritarian speech. We are no longer, it appears, and I know this sounds alarmist and I know this sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, I bet this whole video is gonna feel alarmist and ridiculous. I found the brow thing.
People in the comment section like, oh, he's wrong. It's not that bad. Mate, it is that bad. If what is happening apparently in this story, if what is alleged to have happened is true, then we are falling into a pit of despair that we may never
Crazy if true.
crawl out of. Ladies and gentlemen, as someone who gives a shit, and I think you should give a shit as well,
It's the language.
this story is completely fucked. All right? Fuck, that's it.
Mate, it's fucked. It's fucked, mate.
Anyway, and I know YouTube will fucking freak out because I said that this early in the video, but how else do I describe a story where a toddler, a baby, someone who was living in a womb not too long ago has been removed, kicked out, fucking sent away from a preschool, a nursery, whatever you want to call it, a daycare, because they have been accused of being transphobic. You ready to hear this story?
Yes.
It's going to blow your mind.
I'm ready to be
Toddler
blown.
Kicked out of nursery for being transphobic as families blast the school's insanity. So, there was this big report that was released showing why children were kicked out of schools, nurseries, which means daycares or preschools, and high schools. And basically, the reason this report was done was to show what children are doing wrong and the reasons and the problems that perhaps the younger people are facing in the education system in the UK. Now, the statistics showed that a child, and they weren't able to show the exact age of the child, they were either 3 or 4. At least one, perhaps more, was kicked out because they were being transphobic. Now, I don't know how a child can be transphobic. Now,
It's actually very easy for anybody to be transphobic. It doesn't really have much to... That's crooked as hell. It doesn't have much to do with like the individual's age. Children learn from parents how to act. So if the parents are transphobic, most likely, especially at a younger age, the kids are going to be transphobic as well. I thought we were talking about a specific example. We're just going with like some statistics from wherever the hell. We don't even know really where that's coming from. But the problem with this is, how do you accurately identify who was kicked out because of transphobia? Because you're not about to sit there, holy, I don't know what I'm doing. This is just putting color on my face. It's not even really going in strokes, and I wanted it in strokes. Because if you're quote-unquote transphobic, it's probably going to be very likely that you're also going to be a bully and be homophobic and maybe even racist. So like somebody who has all of these qualities, they usually exist together, right? Just in the same way that like most people in an MLM don't believe in vaccines, you know, like is it always the case? No. Does it happen to such a degree where it can't be dismissed as a coincidence? Absolutely. So if you're a bully in general, how do we distinguish the reason that got you kicked out? Maybe it was like the last and final straw is like the transphobic act. What he's trying to do is like label this as like, oh, they're even coming for the kids now. Like, no. If you're a mean kid, you're gonna get called on that. And if you're a mean adult, you should be called on that as well. So I've never had a kid in a school get kicked out before. That's just not really how things are done in Canada, I suppose. You would have an in-school suspension, or you would spend time in the office with the principal and things like that. You don't really get kicked out. But also I taught elementary, so. But preschool, maybe because going to preschool isn't a right, where school is a right. So there's a lot more standards around like when you can kick somebody out. This is interesting. Okay, let's keep going.
Sure, you may hear a child say some mean things. Maybe they say some shitty things. Maybe they hear some things at home that are particularly rancid. Maybe the parents are racist. Maybe they say some mean things, and then the child repeats that at their place of education or daycare. Now, is that the child's fault? I guess that's a pretty interesting.
No. No, it's not. It's not. In a micro way, it is kind of their fault because they're there in the moment and they chose to say it. But overall, it's definitely not their fault because they learned that at home. It's the parents' fault.
Question, should you blame them?
No.
Should you blame them if they swear? Is that the child's fault? Well, obviously
No.
not, because they're a fucking child. Yeah, fucking dumb.
I love... Okay. Oof.
Nursery after being accused of transphobia, new figures reveal. The child, either age 3 or 4, was suspended for abuse against sexual orientation and gender identity.
Wow.
Data for the Department of Education shows. The offences took place in the 2022 to 23 academic year at a state school. So by that, I would say nursery means kindergarten. Okay, according to the Telegraph.
Okay.
So for that 1 year, 94 babies, children, were suspended, kicked out, or for at least a couple of days, or permanently excluded. So
94? I guess it really only matters how many of them there are because 94 is so much, is so many.
Banned from the school for transphobia or homophobia in the same year. This included 10 pupils from year 1, 3 and 3 from year 2, where the maximum age was 7 and 1 child from the nursery age. So the rest of the kids, so the other 90 kids, were a couple of years older, but still in their junior years. So primary school, depending on where you are in the world, up until the age of what, 12? Still, like, why would they be excluded or kicked out or suspended for that shit? Like, I absolutely agree that they shouldn't be hateful. They shouldn't be mean. They shouldn't be transphobic or homophobic. But what are they actually saying? That needs to be taken into account. And I imagine this should happen anyway. The school's Department of Education that runs the schools, they should be looking into what these kids are actually saying. Now, should they then be cracking the whip at these kids? Should they then be saying, hey, these kids need to learn better? Maybe some of them do. But what are these kids saying? That needs to be answered here, because maybe they're just questioning things. Because I imagine that if these kids said something outrageously transphobic and homophobic, like, remember the signs that they used to put up at soldiers' funerals about the F word, F word must die, that type of stuff, all that bullshit. Well, okay, is that in the same boat as a kid saying there's only 2 genders because they heard their parents say it?
Yeah, you shouldn't be kicking a child out because they said there's only 2 genders. Kids say stuff that isn't true all the time because they don't have a developed prefrontal cortex like adults do. So the parents don't have an excuse. There was red on that brush, wasn't there? Jesus. So the kids shouldn't be blamed, but the parents should be because they know. Allegedly, they have a prefrontal cortex.
Obviously not the same, but also one's true and accurate. That's interesting, right?
No,
what is
not
actually happening with these kids? So the Department of Education has said in response to this that all pupils and staff should feel safe and protected at school and should never face violence or abuse. Now, I want to understand what these people have said, these young babies have said, because that's what matters here. Okay, if they've been directly angry and violent and abusive, then maybe they do deserve a suspension or expulsion, depending on what they've said.
Expulsion.
But what if they have said something just as plain and simple and accurate as there's men and women and that's it? Because maybe that's all that's been said here.
But that's actually not true, but whatever.
When you say that they have been banned or expelled for transphobia or homophobia, that doesn't really mean anything, because I think a lot of people's minds go straight to the most extreme things that someone could say.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a gay person, you deserve to go to hell. If you're a trans person, you deserve to whatever. I think we all jump straight to that conclusion, and maybe that's not accurate at all. And here is a great example of this. In 2022, a Church of England school warned a 6-year-old boy's parents he might be deemed transphobic if he were to question another pupil wearing a dress. I imagine a male pupil wearing a dress. Well, why wouldn't a 6-year-old boy question another little boy wearing a dress? That is not the normal thing that is done.
But there is no normal. That's the problem here. He's not coming off as like super far right, I suppose, because he is saying some basic things that I agree with. Oh, oops. He is saying some basic things that I agree with, but like overall, there's not really a normal of what is done. Just deeming things as like normal and not normal, it doesn't help anybody, and in fact it hurts people. But yeah, there is no normal, there is no average. All of those things are used to like separate people from each other. If you're teaching to the average, you're teaching to no one. The average person quite literally does not exist, because if you take the averages of everyone, that's no one. Right? The average doesn't exist, whatever. Yeah, he's not like far right enough, I think, to be, I don't know. He's not really giving much other than like, I'm Australian and I know how to swear, right? It's giving very one note. So, all right, we're almost done already. Jeez.
People freak out when you say normal. Well, okay, if you've got 100 young boys, all 6 years old, 99 of them are all wearing boys' clothes because boys wear boys' clothes, right?
No. That's how we've socialized ourselves to be. And not even we. Like, I'm not a part of that. Not all boys wear boys' clothes. And the fact that some have the courage and audacity to stand out and wear something that they want that deviates from the standard, just because those ones exist, it doesn't mean that a more significant amount of that population wouldn't want to do that. They just don't know that's an option. You know, we shouldn't be gendering clothes. Wear what you want, for the love of God. It's just, yeah. And he's giving that like big old grin there. I'm like, well, your boy clothes look boring. So there's that.
It's what we do, okay? And if you don't like it, start your own fucking society in the jungles of the Amazon. If that what
That was a really stupid thing to say. Yeah, if only I could go out to the jungles of Amazon, but that is not really an option for anyone unless you own Amazon. I don't know. Stupid. Ugh.
young male decides to wear a dress, of course all of the other boys are going to question that young boy. In the same vein that if that young boy decided to wear a clown nose, they'd all go, what the fuck are you wearing, bro? This is from the...
A clown nose is the same thing as wearing a dress? Good lord.
Parents of that young boy who they said if they questioned the dress wearer, they could be locked into the transphobia camp. They claimed in a letter from the school, also added that refusing to use the transgender pupil's adopted name or gender-appropriate pronouns would be considered transphobic behaviour.
Well, it is, and you have to label it as something. It's just general, like, bullying. If you're using somebody's name that's not their name, that's a problem. Use their name. We're really creating a molehill out of a mountain. No, the other way. We're really creating a mountain out of a mole. Never mind.
More of this too. A feminist professor, Kathleen Stock, was cancelled and forced to leave the University of Sussex in 2021 because she claimed in 2020 that trans women are women is fiction. Literally not true.
I mean, it's in the word is in the word. Trans women, there's women in the term trans women, so trans women are women. They're a kind of woman.
Cases where women undress should remain genuinely single sex in order to protect them. Wow. And last week that university was fined or charged £585,000, which is about $1 million Australian, for failure to uphold free speech, the largest fine ever given to a university. And I guess this is the big part of this story, that is the most important part of this story, is what is this teaching our young people about free speech? Just because someone...
You can have free speech, I swear. Why is there so much like red coming off of this brush when it looks so clean? Everybody has free speech, but you do not get freedom from consequence, and that is not the same thing.
Decides that they want to dress a certain way, are we not allowed, or are our children not allowed? I'm a parent of a 2-year-old. What does this mean for them?
It means respect people. If they... What?
What's going to happen in a few years' time when he goes to school? Is that going to be even more widespread? Is that going to travel out of the UK and affect children in Australia and America and all over the world? And by affect, I mean, are they going to be told what they can and cannot say when it comes to things that pertain to accuracy? Like the two genders? Like the one thing that, if you recall...
Yeah, there's so much that I want to say, but I'm going to save it because the line video really gets us together. So we're going to wait for the line. We're going to wait for the line because they're going to tear this worldview apart.
This got me kicked off of TikTok with 800,000, nearly 1 million fucking followers on TikTok. When I said that men can't get pregnant. If my son says that at school, is he going to be kicked out of school? Is your son or your daughter? Are they going to be removed from their friends, kicked out of their area, everything they know, they love, that they're used to because they state the truth? This is an attack on free speech.
No, it's
now,
not.
As I said, if they've said something genuinely horrific and horrible, then maybe they should face some punishment, no doubt. But if it's just things that are accurate, then they shouldn't face any punishment at all. They should be cheered. They should be celebrated for thinking.
So is he fired up about this because his kid is transphobic? It's giving moderate transphobia. You know, it's not too much, but it is too much.
Or at least that's what will happen in my house, and I imagine will happen in yours. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to be accurate with the things that we say and the way that we think. It's a real shame that this is even a conversation. And how dare...
And him saying, like, we need to be accurate. To be fully accurate, gender is on a spectrum. So I don't know what accuracy we're going for here. Can you not see the gender spectrum right in front of you? And he's saying, like, ladies and gentlemen, and no one else. Because nothing else exists. I have my 2 colors in there to start. Now it's time for the tape, and I think Butterworth is almost done here.
The people that are supposed to look after our children attack them with absolute nonsense like this. And that's all it is. It's all lies and deceit and bullshit. Unless it's actually horrible, then maybe.
But what are you defining as horrible? He really doesn't have a whole lot of personality or anything going on, hey? Like, I'm not surprised, I'm just saying.
Thank you, mate. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about this whole ridiculous fucking... There's no other word. It's just ridiculous. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. Be a good motherfucker. Peace in the Middle East. Be dick stinks. And I'll see you very soon. Toodaloo, au revoir. Bye-bye.
What outro was that? Sweet God. We're not going to waste any time because I look a little wild with that. But yeah, now we're going to jump into the line. Now, the only context that you need for the line is that people call in. It's a call-in show. And there's a rotating panel of guests. And today it is Forrest and John. And they are going to be talking to Chuck. Now, Chuck called in to talk about religion. But when Chuck gave his pronouns to the call screener, he put attack helicopter as his pronouns. Of course, attack helicopter are not pronouns. And for 38 minutes, Forrest, our beautiful ginger man on the left, tears Chuck apart. I'm not going to have a whole lot to say. And you know what? After 100 videos on Dismantling Hate, I'm so excited to not have to dismantle a thing, but just to sit here and offer my commentary on the world's best transphobic takedown. Oh, it is so good. I'm so excited to show you this. Let's go.
So this is Chuck, no pronouns given, calling in from Florida. And before I bring Chuck on, I'm actually going to bring Chuck here into our thing. Chuck, the reason why, you can hear me now, but we can't hear you. It says here that you're calling to say that religion is part of the extended phenotype of human beings. I have an issue with that. We'll talk about it if you want. However, it says here you have given no pronouns, and that's fine. You don't have to. We don't require that for anybody. We respect people who don't want to give any. But I do have a note from my producer here that says when you originally called in, you listed your pronouns as attack and helicopter, which, as I'm sure you know, is just a shitty dig at trans people, at self-identification, at the concept of gender identity. And it's really destructive and shitty. And so because you put that in there, just to begin with, even though this call wasn't about trans people, I just want to check before we actually start talking about religion or anything like that. Are you just a troll who's just looking for a reaction and just to be a dick, or do you actually have something to actually talk about? You are now on the line, and you can answer that question before we talk about anything else.
No, I am not a troll at all. I really do have a, the discussion that I would like to have regarding the, religion as an extended phenotype of human beings. And again, I apologize.
Okay.
I wasn't trying to be provocative with that statement. I thought it was.
Okay, I feel like that's a bullshit thing to say, but it's whatever. We can move on.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I just want to. Yeah, I agree with John. That's kind of bullshit. If you've been paying enough attention to the discourse around trans people for the past few years, enough to use that silly joke about attack helicopter, surely you know how hurtful that can be, or at least have some inkling that people don't like it for a reason.
Okay. Well, I wasn't calling in to talk about trans or anything like that. I really did have a question about religion. Right. And
but you started with that, so I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Do you understand why that's a problem and why you probably shouldn't do that in the future?
Why pronouns?
Why using your pronouns or listing attack helicopter as your pronouns is kind of a hurtful thing to do, and why it's got a really problematic history and why it's just not a good. Do you have any inkling on that?
Well, regarding pronouns,
or do you just not care?
Again, I'm not trying to talk about pronouns.
We are now. So here we are. You can either talk about it at this point. Yeah, we'll take the rest of the call. I'm happy to talk about the other stuff, but because of your actions, we are now talking about it. So I'm asking you again, do you understand why that's shitty and why that's a shitty thing to do?
Why it's shitty? Well, I believe that, we have freedom of thought, and I'm not going to be thought policed. I don't believe in...
Nobody said you are.
Well, yeah, you're trying to berate me for something I thought was humorous, but I apologize.
The fact that you found it humorous is the issue, and the fact that you thought it was acceptable to put that on your thing when you called in is a problem. I'm not thought policing you. I'm calling you out for something shitty that you did. So I'm asking you, do you understand that that's shitty, and why, or do you not care?
Well, how should I feel? Enlighten me. What emotion should I be experiencing right now?
That's not my issue.
Yeah.
Well,
we're not trying to tell you how to feel.
You're looking for an outcome. What would you have me say in response?
Give me an honest
saying
answer.
That Well, I would say that, saying that identifying as an attack helicopter is a really shitty thing to do in general, considering the conversation. No, I'm not done. I'm not done talking yet. Okay. It definitely identifies yourself as at least partially transphobic. And I feel like, making fun of the use of pronouns as a way to normalize, the use of pronouns, I guess, in this particular context, kind of makes you seem very shitty, just on a very personal level. Shit.
I remember the first time that I watched this video, I think I just sat there with my mouth like on the floor, just shocked the whole time at how well these two guys argue against this bigot. It's just beautiful, and just like sit back, soak it in. You don't need, if you don't want to watch me do my makeup, girl, go watch this original video. It just is amazing.
All right. Well, I committed a thought crime, and for that I apologize.
No.
Once again,
not a thought crime.
We're not doing it. Yeah, we're not playing into the whole "there's no free speech anymore" game. Nobody's accusing you of that.
Here's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing. You did something that was shitty, and now, whoa, there appears a wild consequence of your actions, right? So that's what's happening right now, right?
Okay.
This is a consequence of your actions. We're not telling you can't be a shitty person.
Yeah, you're welcome to be, just not on this show. So, like, you use this quote-quote joke, right? Something you thought was humorous. We're trying to get just an honest answer out of you. So you keep asking me, like, you asked, what is my preferred outcome here? My preferred outcome is that you give me an honest answer. Did you know that was shitty, or did you not care that it was shitty? Whether or not you knew, or whether or not you cared.
I consider transgenderism to be a mental disorder. I don't consider it a legitimate.
So your issue is, you're calling in to talk about extended phenotypes and things. Your issue is actually with biology. And the fact that, like, this is actually something that we know a lot about now, and that we have definitively shown is not anything to do with any kind of a mental disorder. John, you had something?
Oh, yeah. So, very obviously, if anybody hasn't picked up on it, he just flat out lied to us at the very beginning of this, saying, oh, I wasn't meaning to be disrespectful or a dick or anything like that with identifying as a fucking attack helicopter. I mean, you obviously lied to us. Why should we continue a conversation with you since you're just going to lie to us anyways? There's no way that we can know if you're actually being serious at this point. Right. You just seem like a big, fat fucking liar.
This guy's a big phony.
Very good point, John. That's a very good point.
All right. Well, it's up to you. I really just wanted to talk about religion. So
I really don't care because you started the conversation before the conversation even started by attacking trans people. So like, I'm not going to sit here and have a conversation about religion with somebody who's going to be openly bigoted and go against science. Go against the American Medical Association, go against the World Health Organization, go against the American Psychiatric Association, go against all trained scientists who understand that trans people are valid in their identities, and sit here and say, oh, no, it's this actually a mental disorder, when I'm going to go ahead and just go on a limb here and say you have no expertise or no training in this area. And start the conversation before the conversation even starts by being transphobic on our show.
Okay. Well, in the DSM-4, gender dysphoria.
We're up to the DSM-5 now. We're up to the DSM-5 now. So in an outdated manual, they said something that you think means something that it probably doesn't mean. Who gives a shit?
Well, the science evolves. So there you go.
Yeah. Science evolves. It's the reason why airplanes work. It's the reason why you're able to talk to us on the phone right now. So here's the question for you then, Chuck. Are you going to continue to grow with science, or are you going to lock yourself down in the Stone Age and decide that, nope, science was right at this exact time in history and not any other time?
No. I like science. I very much.
Do you like science? Because you're here saying that science isn't real. It sounds like you like stories that go along with your worldview.
Well, you have. I thought we were going to talk about religion. Are we going to talk about religion or not?
We would talk about religion if you hadn't started out by being a bigot. So now we're talking about what you did. You did a thing, and now we're talking about it. We're not policing you. We're holding you accountable for the shitty thing that you did. So, again, you just said you like science. Why, then, are you in such disagreement with modern science?
Explain to me how I'm disagreeing with modern science. What do you mean exactly?
I'd be happy to. So let me go ahead and pull up here. This is just the World Health Organization. This is their page on gender and health. So this is who.int. I'll go ahead and drop this tab into the chat so everybody can follow along. Gender, this is from the third paragraph here. Gender interacts with, but is different from sex, which refers to the biological and physiological characteristics of males, females, and intersex persons, such as chromosomes, hormones, and reproductive organs. Gender and sex are related to, but different from gender identity. Gender identity refers to a person's deeply felt internal individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond to the person's physiology or designated sex at birth. So that's the World Health Organization, the best doctors and biologists in the world, saying that gender and sex are different things and they don't necessarily align, that gender can be incongruent with sex. Why are you not believing what the World Health Organization says about the health of the world?
All right, because the biological gender binary evolved for a very good reason. It's because we're a species that reproduces sexually. So
wrong again there, Chuck. Let me go ahead and pull up another textbook for you. This one here, I'm actually going to share my screen. John, I'm so sorry I'm talking so much, but let me go ahead and just pull up my screen here. This is my display capture showing now, and you can see here, this is Campbell's Biology. This is an actual goddamn biology textbook. This is the textbook, by the way. If you memorize about half of this, you get a bachelor's degree. That's what this is. Just a really standard textbook in biology. And we're just going to go ahead and click Find and type in transgender into here. And here we've got, right here, The biochemical, physiological, and anatomical features associated with males and females are turning out to be more complicated than previously thought, with many genes involved in their development. Because of the complexity of this process, many variations exist. Some individuals vary in the number of sex chromosomes in their cells, and others are born with intermediate sex characteristics, or anatomical features that do not match the individual's sets of their own gender, aka transgender individuals. So here we are again, where science disagrees with you because science shows that trans people exist and that they're valid. They're valid in their identities. I can pull up another couple of textbooks for you if you like. Here I've got, actually, let me break around the room and grab this one.
Say that human beings don't reproduce sexually? Is science saying that we don't reproduce sexually, or are you saying that men can have babies?
Chuck, if you were paying attention even a little bit, you would have heard me say multiple times now that sex and gender are different things. Try to keep up, John. Here I've got my undergraduate genetics textbook right here, and this is from chapter 4.1, Sex is determined by a number of different mechanisms, and it says right here, it goes into a whole thing about how sex differences work, how sex isn't strictly binary, how there's different variations of sexual development, and then they have this little paragraph: gender is not the same as sex. Biological sex refers to the anatomical and physiological phenotype of an individual. Gender is a category assigned by the individual or others based on behavioral and cultural practices. One's gender need not coincide with one's biological sex. So, again, for about the 50th time now here, science disagrees with you, John. If you like science, why don't you believe it? Why are you in disagreement with all of these major medical associations and all of biology?
I think that there has been some kind of ideological capture in some schools of science, and I don't agree with all of it.
So all biologists and all doctors have been caught up in some sort of ideological whirlwind, and that's why every major medical association supports trans people, and why also, like, all of these biology textbooks that I'm bringing up for you also mention and support trans and intersex people. Is that what you're saying to me there, Chuck?
You ask me a lot of leading questions. I think are you doing a lot of virtue signaling here? What exactly? I don't understand what.
I dare you to drop another right-wing dog whistle. Yeah, here's the thing: is what you just said is that the reason why you don't accept modern science when it revolves around involves gender is because you think there's some big ideological push. What I just quoted to you are actual college textbooks and the largest medical organization on the planet. And you're saying that there's some sort of ideological influence here. How do you justify that belief? And how is that any different than when back in, like, I think it was the 70s, wasn't it? When the American Medical Association came out and said, actually, homosexuality is not a mental disorder. We used to believe homosexuality was a mental disorder, and then we proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't. And a lot of people said, this is all this woke liberal stuff, when really it was just science being science. So how is what you're saying now different than what idiots were saying then?
I don't think homosexuality is a mental disorder. I think it's a normal variation of human sexuality.
But there was an issue. There was an edition of the DSM that said that it was. So why are you okay with that science evolving, but not science regarding gender?
Listen, I just don't think women can be men. I don't think sex is on a.
Nobody's saying women can be men, Chuck. We're saying that trans women are women and that trans men are men, because woman and man are gender terms, which are different than things like male, female, and intersex, which are sex terms. Because as I've said several times now, sex and gender are different things.
Sex and gender are the same thing. I don't believe that you can separate sex from gender. I think you're male and female.
So once again, you are in disagreement with the World Health Organization and every major medical association in this country, and also modern biology, as I've just shown you from modern biology textbooks, one that I used in college and one that I teach out of today. So college textbooks about biology, biologists like me, and also the best doctors in the country and the world think you're wrong. What do you know that we don't, Chuck?
I see the line of questioning. I got you. Okay, so you're really gonna just frame it in terms of I'm somehow morally disordered because I don't believe in this ideology of gender and sex.
I know I'm not talking very much. I've been watching a lot of this kind of stuff, and it just is so nice to sit back and just listen to this. It's so good. I am in love with this man now. I'm in love with Forrest. He's great. I already love Gingers, but even more so with him. I really don't have anything to add other than just painting my face. I'm live, laugh, loving the shape so far. I'm ready to start the foundation and the rest of the face, so let's keep going.
I haven't brought up morality at all, Chuck. Only you have. I'm asking you, why, if you are a person who says they like science, why are you in disagreement with the leading science organizations on the planet about this issue? Is there any other science that you don't believe in?
There's plenty of biologists who don't agree with that. When I took biology as an undergrad, they weren't pushing this stuff. This is very recent.
When did you take biology as an undergrad?
In the early 2000s.
Okay, so do you think in the last 20 years we've learned more things?
I think there's been ideological capture, as I mentioned before. There's an agenda.
So you don't think that we've learned anything new about sex or gender in the last 20 years?
No, I think, we are still a species that reproduces sexually, and I don't think men can get pregnant. But you're going to play games with
So here we are again. You are in disagreement with the best doctors and biologists in the world. You are in disagreement with not only all the universities that are teaching biology, but the biologists who write the textbooks for the universities. Professional biologists writing materials for other professional biologists to train new professional biologists. You are in disagreement with those things because you think there's some ideology involved. And yet, when it comes to other pushes in this direction, other ways in which science has evolved, like homosexuality, for example, you don't seem to have a problem with it. So once again, you took biology in your undergrad. What did you learn that I didn't? What's the evidence that you have that sex and gender are inseparable? That somehow the World Health Organization, the American Medical Association, the Endocrine Society, the American Psychiatric Association, that genetics textbook, that Campbell's biology book, those people don't know the thing that Chuck knows. So what is it? Tell me what it is that you know that I don't.
Yeah, you're smart. I'm dumb. You're right. I'm wrong. You got it all figured out. So yeah, you got it.
I mean, that's a really lame and cowardly answer there, Chuck.
Yeah, Forrest actually asked you a question, and you're just gonna try to deflect. Like, I'm sorry, this harkens back to the very beginning of the conversation. No, this harkens back to the very beginning of the conversation when you just lied to us about about meaning to insult trans people with how you identify as a fucking attack helicopter. So, I mean, honestly, I don't see any reason why anybody should take you seriously. But I would love to hear the answer to Forrest's actual question here, whether that's going to be a lie or not. My guess is it's probably going to be a lie.
I feel like this is not supposed to be a culture war issue. I was talking about religion, but you're insisting on making an issue here. But what exactly is your?
There is no culture war issue, Chuck. There is no culture war issue. Sorry, go ahead, John. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say we're insisting on just being respectful. I'm from North Alabama, okay? So like, redneck as fuck out here, okay? And how I was brought up was to respect other people, and that would include however they seem to identify. You know, it's not up to me to dictate to somebody else as to how they should identify. It would be really dickish of me to make fun of the person that just wants to correctly communicate with other people. Like, when did it become such a bad thing to want to communicate effectively with other people by providing the correct pronouns that you should use when referring to other people? Like, I just don't understand that. If there's a culture war that's going on here, the culture war is coming from your dipshitty side. Okay, that's the only culture war that's coming on, because you have a war against just treating people fucking respectfully. And so that's the only problem that really exists here. There's no problem on our side other than the fact that you're being a dick. You started off by lying to us, and now we're not going to let that go, and you seem to be uncomfortable about that.
I'm not.
I also want to throw out the
uncomfortable
fact
at all.
that I dared you to use another right-wing dog whistle, and then you just threw out culture war now. It sounds like I'm arguing with frickin' Jordan Peterson. It's disgusting.
So, do I have to bear the cross of Jordan Peterson? Am I going to be?
Oh my God! Holy shit!
Like, what?
It's insane to me how much of a victim you feel like for just being held accountable for being an asshole. Like, it's really wild. Like, you called in and said something shitty because for some fucking reason, you've decided that all the scientists are wrong about this one thing. It's like an anti-vaxxer. Yes, I know, I trust all medicine and I'll go to a doctor when I need chemo, but like, with this one particular vaccine, with this one particular disease, I think they've all got it wrong. I think I know more than all of them. And when we're sitting here presenting you with modern science, we're presenting you with actual, like, credible organizations that think something differently than you. You're like, no, that's all ideological stuff. And on top of all of it, on top of you just flatly refusing to accept that there are people who are smarter than you on this issue, on top of that, you're going to throw out here, oh, you're thought policing me, and oh, well, I guess I committed a thought crime, and oh, well, you're just virtue signaling, and all these things, as if you're the wounded party here, when you called onto our show to be a dick, and now we're like, hey, why are you such a dick? And that's been this whole call. So, like, honestly, dude, I don't get what your problem is. If you say you like science. Keep up to date with it. Learn new stuff.
Science is not supposed to be ideological, but I feel like I've committed the crime of being against your transgender ideology. Not everybody has to believe.
There's no ideology here, Chuck. The evidence has shown us that sex and gender are different things, and that they're not necessarily congruent. That's why every leading medical association accepts that fact. Do you think that do you think that all these people who write these textbooks are just like, well, I guess we've got to talk about trans people? Or do you think that maybe biologists are doing biology?
Have you ever heard of Lysenkoism? Do you know what Lysenkoism is?
No, I would like you to answer the question that I just asked you.
Well, I believe that, science, like any other institution, is subject to corruption. I think this is just a function of an ideological capture and corruption of what science is supposed to be. I think it'll eventually get squared away.
And so that's why, like, when people publish things in the literature and it gets peer reviewed and stuff, that's what that's for, right? Is to help get rid of that. So why is it that now all of these major medical associations, including the World Health Organization, are all on a side that's different? Are they all corrupted? Are they all corrupt, Chuck? Are they all just here? They're all been infiltrated by trans people and their allies, so that now all of these scientists have to differ away from science on this one tiny little issue?
No, there's a push to make, this ideology capture the biological sciences. It started in the in psychology and the social sciences.
Mm-hmm. So, just out of curiosity, also I want to ask, you do know that whole argument that you've used a couple of times about how, like, well, humans are a sexually reproducing species and all that stuff, that was also used to try to keep homosexuality as a mental disorder, right?
Well, listen, I'm not talking. I've already said that homosexuality is a normal variation of human sexuality. There's nothing.
Right. But answer my question, Chuck. People used to say that humans are a sexually reproducing species, and there's males and females, and therefore homosexuality is wrong, and it's a disease, and it's a disorder. Why don't you believe them? Why don't you accept that argument, but you do accept the argument that because we're sexually reproducing, that trans people aren't real?
Because trans people have an extremely high rate of suicide. It seems to me like a mental
I see. So Chuck, let me ask you another question. Do you think that high suicidality is associated with being trans because they have some disease, some disorder, or do you think it might be because they live in a society where people like you are arguing that they don't exist and that they're all disease and disorders, and that we have countless laws being talked about and passed in this country to influence their lives and to stop them from using a bathroom properly and to stop them from playing sports properly. There was a state not too long ago that literally the state passed a law about trans people in sports that affected exactly one high school girl because she was trying to play sports and she was trans. And that one girl got a whole law passed to ban just her from playing in her high school sports, because we have commentators like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and the rest of them that try to dismiss these people's identities and call them disease and disorder and all these things. Do you think that there's a high suicide rate in this community because there's something wrong with the community, or because they live in a world where people are treating them as if they're all diseased perverts and questioning the validity of their identity and using dumbass pronouns like attack helicopter when they're trying to just say, hey, this is who I am. This is how I feel. These are the feelings that I have that are, again, supported by the best science that we have and supported by every major medical association in the country and the World Health Organization. These are the feelings I'm having, and people are treating them like dog shit. Do you think that maybe that has something to do with the high suicide rate in that community? Chuck?
Why don't you answer that question? You're much more knowledgeable about this than I. Do you think that? Is that something that
it's weird that you think that I am, because you've said over and over that you don't care what science says, your feelings matter more. So I'm asking you a question. I would like you to answer it. Do you think that the high suicide rate that we see in the trans community is their fault, or it's because they live in a world that treats them as if they are lesser than?
I think the fact that even pre-op, post-op, they still commit suicide is pointing to something is wrong internally. That's what I think. I don't think society...
So you think that as soon as... Go ahead, John.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you're not actually countering what Forrest has said or is trying to point out here, because, like, pre, post, whatever point in a person's treatment, they can still be, subjected to those same social factors that increase, the suicide rate or increase suicidal thoughts in people that are trans. So you're not actually differentiating anything. You're just adding more bullshit onto whatever lies you're trying to tell us right now.
Also, I'm just going to throw this out there, as if you give a shit what science actually says, just in case you decide to just, that maybe there are people who are smarter than you in the world. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out here. This is from the American Medical Association. This is actually an article published by the president of the American Medical Association, or at least he was at the time. This says, because you brought up surgery, every major medical association recognizes the vital role of gender-affirming care in improving the physical health and mental well-being of transgender individuals. Widely accepted standards of care and clinical guidelines recommend a stage process for transgender minors that enable young people to explore and live the gender that they choose while keeping options open. Studies have consistently demonstrated that providing gender-affirming care that is both age-appropriate and evidence-based leads to improved mental health outcomes. Conversely, denying such care is linked to a greater increase of anxiety, depression, and self-harm. So, you say it's before and after surgery? Once again, modern medical science disagrees with you. Gender-affirming care is life-saving care. And while, yes, there are still high rates of suicide and depression in these communities, once again, that is demonstrating an external problem, not an internal problem. And you would recognize that if you were honest with yourself for 3 fucking seconds, Chuck.
So
I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat as well so everybody can read it.
Right. Society is wrong. Okay. I know I have blasphemed against this ideology, and for that I apologize.
Oh my God!
And once again, Chuck. Once again, Chuck. Nobody's saying that, but you. You have a mental dodge every time somebody says something you don't like to say, oh, well, I've offended it's the thought police. Oh, I've hurt their feelings. Oh my God. When the entire time we've been here, it's been feelings over facts for you. Every major medical association disagrees with you. The World Health Organization disagrees with you. Modern biology disagrees with you. But your feelings say that, this seems kind of wrong and icky, and it's not what I learned back in the early 2000s, so therefore it must be incorrect. And when we're trying to demonstrate to you that what you're doing is not only incorrect, but harmful, you're going to come at us and say, oh, well, I'm the victim now because oh my God, I've offended you and you're going to hurt me and take it out on me. No, you just said something that's incorrect. And we're trying to educate you on it and trying to show you that smarter people than you or I think that you're incorrect.
Right.
So why don't you believe them? Why are these same arguments that you agree are bad for homosexuality good enough for you when it comes to trans people?
Because homosexuals aren't committing suicide at the same rate as transgenders.
They were when it was considered a mental disorder, Chuck. Suicidality was very high in the homosexual community when homosexualities were less accepted in society. When we began to accept them as a society, suicide rates went down. When modern science came along and said, actually, these people are not diseased, perverted freaks. They actually are just normal human beings trying to live in a way that doesn't hurt anybody. All of a sudden, magically, they stopped hurting themselves and killing themselves and feeling depressed and anxious as much. Same thing happens when trans people are allowed access to gender-affirming care and societal acceptance. Study after study confirms this.
What you call gender-affirming care is really just castrating homosexuals. I see it as a wicked thing.
Oh my God. Can we drop him?
Right, all right. Yeah, this is the last one for me, Chuck, because I'm really just sick of it. You need to read a fucking book, dude. One that isn't written by some alt-right talking head. Because here's the fact of the matter. Every single thing that you've said in this call has been demonstrably wrong. Not ideologically wrong, actually factually wrong. If you read any medical publication on this, or any basic biology textbook in this, you will see that you are actually wrong. And what you've done consistently is not only say that you're the smartest fucking person on the planet and that all these doctors and scientists don't know what they're talking about, but also gone on to parrot all sorts of really, really toxic and harmful things that actually increase the rate of depression and anxiety and self-harm in this community. So you are actively not only being ignorant, but being hurtful to people that need to be protected now more than ever. So I don't know what the fuck you get off, dude, but it's ridiculous that you would call into a show about people who give a shit about science and evidence and inclusivity and equality and try to spew this nonsense as if you're going to get away with it and then be fucking upset when we call you out on it.
Okay, you can call me out on it, but I'm not going to parrot the line that you want me to parrot. You want to
No, I want you to educate yourself. I don't care what you parrot. I want you to read something that you don't already agree with for a change.
Reasonable people can disagree. There's disagreement in science all the time. Not everybody has to follow doctrine or dogma.
This is not just disagreement, though.
This is disagreement like the level of what shape is the earth kind of disagreement. Yeah, we disagree. I study biology. In my job all the time, we disagree on how things evolved. We disagree on when things evolved. We don't disagree on whether or not they evolved, because we know that evolution happens. So when we talk about trans people, we can disagree upon like whether or not this type of care is necessary. We can disagree on whether or not these kinds of policies are helpful. We don't get to disagree on whether or not these people are valid in their identities and that their lives matter and that what we're doing as a society is hurting them, because those are all things that are actual demonstrable facts. So you don't get to disagree with facts, Chuck. You get to disagree with the implications of facts, but you don't get to disagree with facts. Anyway, with that, it's been 33 minutes of you just parroting transphobic talking points and telling us that we have an ideology problem when we're the ones following the evidence and you're the one just parroting Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and all these other people who just say whatever the fuck they want to say because it makes them money. I hope maybe someday you go back to school and learn biology, Chuck, because we've learned a lot of shit since the early 2000s.
Well, what are you going to do? All right. Well, have a good night.
Learn something is what you should do.
Bag of shit.
Yeah, that would be a great step. That would be a great first step. I am. 20 minutes for it. Yeah, I'm not going to. 20 minutes left. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not going to fucking let that shit slide, dude. Thank you for participating in that with me, John. Really appreciate it. What fucking. I mean, I know that
you know way more about the science behind like the gender and sex and everything. So I was very edified on your rant there, but I don't know. I just can't. If he starts off the call with a lie, then he's just gonna he's just going to be a troll the entire time. I feel like there's no way you can trust anything he's going to say.
And that's what gets me about it is like, I know for sure, I would bet $1 million that Chuck walked away from that call being like, oh, well, I woke up the woke people. I kicked the hornet's nest, and all these blue-haired liberals had to come out and tell me I was wrong because I disagreed with their ideology. When, like, the entire call was just textbooks and quotes from major medical associations, people who know what they're talking about saying he's wrong. Like, but like, you're thought policing me. It is insane how much of a victim a bigot feels like. That's what gets me. Is when you're sitting there kicking somebody on the ground, being like, yeah, but like they said something mean about me kicking them, so now I need to kick them more. They groaned a little too loud while I was kicking them, and that means they're the problem. And I cannot stress this enough, fucked.
It's always amazing to me when people have an issue with facing the consequences of their actions, because that just seems like he talked about it as if we were, punishing him for, thinking differently, but it's like, no, these are the consequences of your actions. Like, I mean, you wanted to come on here and lie and then act like you were stupid about the whole attack helicopter thing, and then you proceeded to go down this transphobic tirade where he just spouted off all of these talking points that you would hear from any other transphobe out there. So
that's what gets me.
I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just
I think you're absolutely right. That's what gets me about it. It's like every single time the dude spoke, it was, okay, well, that didn't work. Here's this other shit I heard on 4chan. You know what I mean? Like, that was the whole thing, over and over and over. Oh, well, they're castrating homosexuals. No, they're fucking not, and there's evidence for that. Oh, well, humans only come in two sexes, and we're a sex. That's completely irrelevant and also not entirely true. So what the fuck's the point of what you're saying? Well, I didn't learn it that way back in the 2000s. Okay, we've learned more shit about that since the 2000s. Also, other things like homosexuality. We've learned more stuff about homosexuality since the 2000s. Yeah, well, they're right about that, but like just this one thing, literally everybody's wrong but me. And like, just dude, I don't know where the fuck you get that much arrogance. It's the same thing as the first call. Just the absolute arrogance to say everybody is wrong about it. I know the one way. The only way to pray is Robert's way. And the only way to have a gender is Chuck's way. And all these people that have demonstrated that shit doesn't work, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They all did it wrong. It's I think I would ask him to pull his head out of his ass, but I don't know if there's a crowbar big enough.
Yeah, so that's the line. If you enjoyed that video, you should definitely go subscribe to their channel. They publish so much. All the different hosts have so much content. I've found so many amazing content creators through this production, but I just finished the stones. Those look so good. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna finish up my face here. Thanks so much for getting to the end of this video of Dismantling Hate. If you want to hear more of my commentary, because I feel like I didn't talk very much during this video, you can click on the playlist that rolls here on the end screen. There are quite literally over 100 other Dismantling Hate episodes that you can watch at your leisure. This is still in front of my face, but yeah, I'm gonna finish up my face. I'm gonna film a little bit more, and then I'm gonna go be a diva out there tonight. So thanks for getting to the end. I appreciate you being here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Ooh woo, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. Oh, bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye-bye. Don't do that, David. You have to sing later. Cankles.